Today I'm looking at an old friend which came out in 2011. That's before the very first EM5 came out, the first of the EM series from Olympus. So what is it? Well, it's my old friend, the 45mm f1.8 Olympus Prime. Join me. Roll titles. Well, hi YouTube, Brian James at Micro Four Thirds Guy with you here once again. And today I'm visiting something, I did a review on this 2 years ago. And I said it was one of my favourite lenses ever at the time. Do I still think that? Well, keep watching to find out. But today I'm going to be looking back at the little Olympus 45mm f1.8 lens. This tiny little lens, which I gave such a good review to last time. I still got my collection, but is it still cutting the mustard in 2023? 12 years after it came out, and you know, it came out before the original EM series camera from Olympus, the EM5, and 2 years before the EM1 Mark I. So is this camera really cutting the mustard now? Well, let's find out. Well, I loved this lens when I reviewed it last time. I've taken so many portraits on this lens that it's untrue. It's equivalent, and this will be the last time I do equivalences. I think I'll do a video about equivalences and then stop doing equivalences because they mean nothing. But this is a great short telephoto portrait lens. It really does fall into that fantastic category which gives you very, very little distortion when you're doing portraits. In fact, very little distortion altogether. So it gives you really pleasing photographs. The f1.8 gives you wonderful bokeh. I've been told it's bokeh from the Japanese, not bokeh, so it's bokeh from the Japanese, which means blurry or out of focus, I believe. And really, really good on that. The lens itself has a wonderful sort of seven blade aperture on this, and it really does give really nice bokeh balls. If you're going in for that really shallow depth of field and you want a nice creamy background, then this really does well. And the thing is with bokeh, yeah, there's lenses which can get really, really shallow depth of field. They get nicely out of focus, but it doesn't mean to say it's a pleasing image. Well, this one, whenever I've used it, gives a wonderful creamy image, and it doesn't just have to be pinpoints of light to give the bokeh balls. It's the whole out of focus bit in the background, and I think that the actual quality of the blurriness is much more important than just being blurry, and I think that's really important. And this lens smashes it every time. Now, the biggest advantage for this lens for me, or one of the biggest advantages, there's so many advantages on this lens. One of the biggest advantages on this lens for me is just the size. I mean, it is absolutely minute. 46mm long, 56mm across, and that's the widest part. That's where the actual lens mount is. The lens itself, not the prettiest lens, I must admit, when it's on the camera, not the prettiest lens when it's off the camera, but because of it's so narrow, the widest part is where it actually goes on. It can't get any narrower than that because that's the opening for the lens mount. So tiny little lens on that. Weight on this thing, it's only 116 grams. It's tiny. I think I compared that to 2 bars of chocolate when I was doing the review last time. And really it is a minute little lens. And one of the advantages of this is, because it's so small, because it's so light, you can stick it in a pocket, stick it in a camera bag, and it really doesn't have a negative reaction to you insofar as weight and clumsiness to carry things around. So if you're going off somewhere and you want to take something a little bit more zoomed in but have really low light capabilities of an f1.8, you can do this without really making it a difficult thing to carry around with you. You're not carrying these great big lenses around that you would have had on other formats. This is tiny, very, very effective. Now, the aperture on this I've already mentioned. It goes from f1.8 that it's fully open to f22 it is fully closed down. And the problem with it is, it's not the shortest focusing distance. If you're after something really to do macro shots and get you close in, this isn't the lens for you. Closest focusing on this is over 19 inches. So it's not the best lens for that. But because it's got such a shallow depth of field, because it is that small to medium telephoto, does mean that you can get some really, really nice close-up shots on things with wonderful out of focus. I took some photographs of some flowers, which I'll put it amongst the end, and you'll see on there that at its minimum focusing distance, you can get some wonderful little shots and really differentiate your subject from your background without even trying. Now, I also took some shots, which I'll put up now, but I'll also put them at the end, where I was looking out towards the sea. I'm here at Weymouth at the moment, and I was looking out, there's a tanker, a bulk carrier or something, which is a little bit further out. And I've got the life belt, the life-saving equipment just in front of me across the other side of the path. And I took a couple of shots, one at f1.8 and the other one at f22. And you can see, even from that, it's a very usable lens. And that f1.8, well, the life belt is probably from me, what, about 25-30 feet away. But even then, it's using that to get such a nice shallow depth of field if you wanted to, that it's a very usable lens. Now, one of the things that I do like about this lens, when I'm not taking just portraits, is carrying it around the place, just to get that extra little bit of reach. And I find that if you are doing something in a scenario where you don't want to necessarily be noticed, it's a tiny lens, sits on the front of the camera, but it's got that reach where you can get in to see people and they don't necessarily realise that you're taking a photograph of them, which I find very, very useful. Insofar as its usability and its picture quality, well, the picture quality I've always found fabulous. The contrast on this is wonderful. And because it's got a really good contrast, it does mean to say that some of your subjects can really pop when you see them on the final results. And I find that that's a really pleasing image comes from this. Fully open at f1.8, there is a little bit of softening around the edges, but nothing really to write home about. You know, it's nothing I would really care to comment on too much. I don't notice it at all. And if you're doing portraits, then around the edges, really, quite often you do want soft. But even at f1.8, the centre is pin sharp. It really is a very sharp lens. And I'm not into super sharpness, but sometimes when I'm doing portraits, I do like to be able to see details in the eyes and eyelashes and things like that. And this is a wonderful lens for doing that. When you get to about f5.6 to me is where the lens is really at its peak of operation. It is beautiful. There is almost no chromatic aberration anywhere on this. Even if you really start pushing it, it's just well dealt with. Yes, the camera does take some of the chromatic aberration out because of its algorithms and its processing inside, but I go back to the same sort of thing I've said before, rubbish in, rubbish out. If you've got a lens which has got really bad chromatic aberration, doesn't matter how good the camera is, it's still going to show it. On this, you just don't see the chromatic aberration whatsoever when using it with either Olympus or Lumix cameras, because both have got correction in for this lens, and I don't believe it needs a great deal of correction. You do find that as you get up towards f11, f16, f22, you do start finding diffraction becomes a little bit of a problem on it. But again, it's very, very controlled and nothing I would worry about and nothing to really write home about. So a really usable camera at almost any aperture. I also noticed on this one, there's just no focus breathing. I cannot get any signs of focus breathing whatsoever using this lens. Doesn't matter what you do with the aperture, as you close it in or out, as you focus in and out, you just don't get any of that zooming effect. It stays very, very constant. And if you're using this as a video lens, that's a real big advantage for you. Disadvantages on the lens, as I said before, it doesn't have the slipping clutch like on the 12mm or the 17, which I think was a poor thing on this, although it probably would have made the lens bigger by putting it on. So you do have this never-ending focus ring, which can be a little bit slow when you're trying to manual focus. However, on autofocus, this thing is lightning fast. It really is. Whether you're using it on Lumix or Olympus, but used on Olympus camera, like I've been using on my AM1 Mark II here, it just really is lightning fast. You get everything you want without even noticing, and it's very, very accurate. Now, if you're using this on older Lumix cameras, G7 and earlier, then you're going to have problems because they don't have IBIS in, and of course this doesn't have image stabilization. But if you use it on cameras later than the G7, where the Lumix camera's got IBIS, or any of the Olympus cameras, which all have IBIS in, this is fabulous. It really is nice. It's a very usable lens. It came originally on the pen. I think it came as a kit lens on the pen itself. But it's not an expensive lens to buy. And this is why I think it's such good value for money. Yes, Lumix do a 1.7 42.5mm lens, which is its direct comparison. And I do think that is a slightly better lens optically. The problem is, you're talking about half as much again. Well, a third to half as much again, price-wise, than this. It is slightly bigger, but not much. It's slightly heavier, but not much. But I don't think it really gives me a huge advantage over this. And between the two, I'd be happy keeping this in my lens bag and not bothering to change it. So if you've got one of these, I wouldn't even bother considering looking at the Lumix 42.5. If you haven't got a lens in this sort of size, a prime in this sort of size at this speed, then consider both. It may be worth going for the Lumix, but overall I'm more than happy with this one. I think it's fabulous. Now the other thing with this is it was meant to hit a whole load of the cameras, the old PL cameras when it came out. As I say, it came out before any of the EM series cameras. So it went out of the PL series cameras, which were in various colours, white and silver and things. So although I've got a black one, you can get an all silver one as well. As I've said before though, it's got this wonderful little nice, I'm being sarcastic there, this wonderful nice little ring on the front to hide where the bayonet mount for the non-included lens hood is. It's one of my bugbears on it. 30 quid they charge you for a lens hood for this, you know. So the real price of this goes up by 30 quid because I think you need a lens hood. But what do you do with this? Well, I've taken it off and I've got nowhere to keep it now, and I'll probably put it down and forget about it and lose it, and you know. So what's the point? But if you don't have the lens hood, it is nice and neat. But if you've got a lens hood, put it in the box until you come to sell the lens, if you ever come to sell the lens, and don't even touch it again because it's a waste of time. But it does look quite nice with it when you don't have the lens hood. Now elements wise, there's 9 elements in 8 groups, which, as I've said on this channel before, it's got 9 elements in 8 groups, and I'm sure that's going to really make your day knowing that, but it has. So there we are, we've hit that one. And because it's a 45mm focal length, it has a 27-degree angle of view on Micro Four Thirds cameras, and as I say, this gives you a really pleasing image. So I did sort of suggest at the beginning, is this still good value? Is this still one of the best value lenses for Micro Four Thirds? I've got to say yes, I really still love this lens. If you do look back at that video, I'll stick a link to the original review up there, but if you do look back at that video, Hamish though it was, really Hamish actually, I was watching it earlier, it was quite Hamish. Not that this one's much better of course, but I did love this lens then, and by that time it had been out about 9 or 10 years. It's now 12 years since this came out, nearly 13 years, and I still think it's one of the best lenses, one of the best value for money lenses in the Micro Four Thirds range. If you don't have one, buy one. Really, if you don't have anything in this focal length range, buy one. There is a 1.2, an f1.2 version if you want to be a bokeh freak. You can buy that. It's considerably more expensive. It's 3 to 4 times more expensive than this, considerably bigger and heavier. But it does have the nice focus clutch and the graduated focus markings on it, if that's something you use. But if you're not a bokeh freak and you're actually a photographer, then this is going to do everything you need. Yeah, I think for most photographers this is going to be the lens that they need. But you can go for the fancy one, you can spend your money, and I'm sure that Olympus would be more than happy to take that money off you. But I'll stick with this one as it happens. Is it going to be any good in 2 years' time? Yeah, it is. It's still going to be great in 10 years' time, this lens. So I'll probably keep on updating the photo. Is this a good lens in 2023? Yes. Is it a good lens in 2024? Yes. 25? Yes. It's a great lens. If you haven't got one, buy one. However, thanks very much for watching this video. Thanks very much for letting me go down memory lane and revisit the 45mm f1.8 lens from Olympus. These wonderful people are the people who've enabled me to do that because they are my Patreon patrons, and they're wonderful people. And if you are interested in becoming a patron of the channel, then there is an easy way in, because for the first part you can join for free as a trial, and it only starts taking the money off you the next month. So you get your first month free if you join Patreon and join my channel now, which is a really good thing. If you want to be a patron, there's 2 levels. One gets your name on the things I've said already, and the other one gets you some extra videos and the ability to see videos before some of my YouTube viewers as well. So it really is worth doing. But the best thing is you give that bit of support just to help this channel keep on surviving, and I really do appreciate that. If you just like to do a one-off payment to help me, buy me a cup of coffee or to give me a super thanks is below, and the link for the coffee, the PayPal link, is in the description below. And if you have watched this video, give me a big thumbs up, give me a like, it really is appreciated and really does help the channel. I'm at 9,000, almost 9,600 viewers now, and I'm absolutely stunned by that, nearly at 10,000. And I want to thank each and every one of you for that. So thanks very much for watching the channel, thanks for supporting the channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Until the next one, keep on taking your camera out, whichever lens you're using. But if you've got this one, stick it on the front, give it a try, take your camera out, have fun with your photos. Bye bye.